You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Look what happened. Something happened. And I'm back. I'm nationwide. So, as per normal, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from North Idaho in an actual free state. I am your conservative Sherpa. It looks something like this, perhaps, if I can find it. There I am. What am I doing? Well, being your conservative Sherpa, I am guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist, lies, tyranny, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. And generally all those things at once. And it should shock no one that the theme for tonight's show is America, betrayed from within. Sadly, I have multiple examples of this. And thanks for being here. I have 10 watching live right now. Thank you very much. If you wish to opine, you may call in a little bit later if you would like. I have to tell you this, that what you're about to hear for the next hour, perhaps even 2 hours, consists of my opinion, and my opinion only, and that we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations, because I am doing the job the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. We are still serving stiff drinks in the saloon, along with facts, clarity, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, and common sense for normal people like you and me. We're not leftists, we're not insane, and it shouldn't surprise you that I'm going to point out the insanity of leftists tonight. So I am streaming live on a whole host of various platforms. I'm streaming live on Rumble right now, live on X, live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on Twitch, and with fingers and phalanges crossed, perhaps at KLRN Radio, courtesy of the wondrous Rick Robinson. It is, OMG, I could go here, but I'm not going to. It is April 1st, the year of our Lord, 2025. And I just recently, about 5 minutes ago, had an April Fool's joke pulled on me. I've never been a serious April Fool's kind of person. Usually the bulk of them are really obvious. This one wasn't so obvious. Perhaps I'll tell you later, I'm not sure. But at least after the second time, I finally clued in, yeah, it has to do with the date. So thanks and welcome to everybody, the other side of SHR Media, who is here. Mission Ready Men, thank you for being here. And Sean Lewis, thank you for being here. Reaver of Common Sense, thanks for being here. The Lost Wanderer, not all who wander are lost, is here tonight. Thank you ever so kindly. The Phantom is lurking like a lurking lurkerton. And Rick Robinson is also in here from KLRN. I should care to point out this. You can listen to Rick Robinson on KLRN on Twitter at KLRN Radio. You can listen to our very own SHR Media, Sean Lewis, at Edge of Liberty. And you can listen to our very own Big E, Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And of course, you can listen to the Reaver of Common Sense, because if there were ever anybody who has, imagine this hand, and imagine this hand was close to common sense. And imagine the vodka within was common sense. And imagine this common sense could all of a sudden, you could dunk your hand right in here and just reeve the hell out of the common sense in here. Well, that's exactly what Jersey Joe does. Skull, brother. So welcome to everyone who is here tonight. I grandly appreciate it. I'm going to do a few things tonight. It's kind of an experiment, kind of not. We're going to talk about Democrats who happen to be in the corner. And we have some breaking news with regard to elections. 2 went well, 1 not so bueno. And we'll talk about that. The Florida elections, the Wisconsin election, the Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, because in Wisconsin, it's all about Milwaukee, right? What happened in Milwaukee besides Milwaukee just stood back and Wisconsin stood back? And hey, you want to tear Milwaukee apart? You want to tear the entire state apart? Have at it. It's 2020. I think you're seeing where I'm going with regard to that election. And also, I have 2 very specific sad examples of the GOP betraying America from within. And also some information, some updated information about Signalgate. And it's a never-ending shitstorm, so to speak. It should, of course, not surprise you that I have happy stories and I have many examples illustrative of the fact that leftists are insane. First, I have to start out with this. I don't know, unless you have a 3-hour show every day like Rick Robinson has, you bastard. I don't know how anybody keeps up. There's so much going on. How does anybody who is a political podcaster or a political devotee, how does anybody keep up with what's going on, or much less keep track of what's going on? And I would wager that if Rick Robinson was here right now, he would say something similar to, dude and dudettes, I have 3 hours a day to chat about all of this stuff, and there aren't enough hours in the week to keep up with a fraction of this. And it's very true. I want to point this out. Besides coming back after having put a pause on the show for a little bit, besides coming back, I was pleasantly surprised to learn that StreamYard had screwed me over yet once again in my diminished capacity as a podcaster. So luckily, I didn't just jump into StreamYard about an hour ago. Luckily, I was smart enough to try to assemble all of this stuff once more about 2.5 hours ago. And what I discovered is that StreamYard continues to act as though I don't even exist. It's like, host? Okay, fill this in for BZ. Fill this in for BZ's Saloon. Fill this in for your destiny. Dude, now, whether this is because I took a brief hiatus or whether it's because it's StreamYard, it's technology, and its end goal is to fuck me over as much as it possibly can, I don't know. I can't say. I'm not that smart. But luckily, I was able to cobble together as much as I possibly can. Rick Robinson also says, like and share, please. The algorithms hate conservative. Oh boy, do they ever. And also Rick says, with 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, and doing the rest of the grunkly stuff that he does, he doesn't have time to keep up. I don't know how any individual would or could. Let's look at Doge. This is going to be something of a continuous section, if you will. The U.S. national debt, $36,672 billion. But just look below at the Doge clock. Look at it winding up in terms of money saved, which equates, if you go over to the right, see if I can point this out over here, right here. Savings per taxpayer so far, $2,399. And as the Phantom also indicates, if you would, please, while you're here, 25 people, 26 people listening live and watching live, thank you to each and every one of you. I grandly appreciate it, as a matter of fact. Let me go down here and say something similar to please subscribe. We are so close at SHR to getting 500 people subscribed to the SHR Media Network on YouTube, where we broadcast all of our wonderful shows. SHR Media Network on YouTube, we're like a handful from 500. First it was 68, then it was 58. I haven't checked today, but we are this close. We're super inchy close to getting 500. And for whatever reason, someone much more technologically advanced than I could tell you why that is. Someone intelligent, actually intelligent, unlike me, such as Rick or Sean or Earl or Jersey Joe, could look at all of this and say, well, here's the reason. X plus squared equals 72 divided by pi. So if you would, please subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Once we get to the remarkable 500, magic things occur. Now, for me, it would be a porcelain Dalmatian. I've always wanted a porcelain Dalmatian. And the other aspect of it is I might be the recipient of additional vodka. It's so good for you. And it's healthy too. It's clear. It has no additives, no heinous red, green, purple, burnt umber dyes in it. So God meant me to drink vodka because it's a health boon to myself and everybody else before I am issued I have my factory issued heart attack. Also, that was Debt Clock. Let me go over here before we continue. If you want to see it, go to usdebtclock.org, usdebtclock.org. And then that heinous Elon Musk, damn him. You want to see what's going on in terms of savings, go to doge.gov, doge.gov. And then it's broken down additionally into savings. This is transparency. This is transparency in a government that we have never experienced before. It's the exact opposite of what Democrats, leftists, the DLG, Democrats, leftists, and globalists are indicating. Oh, it's so not transparent. Oh, it's so horrible. We'll get into Elon Musk just a bit later in the show if my brain will hold out. But looky here, estimated savings, $140 billion. God, who was it that said a few $1 billion here, a few $1 billion there, and pretty soon you're talking real money. Amount saved per taxpayer. Not even 100 days into his term, President Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. Speaking of orange cat, maybe at the break, I'll show you the Bobcat. At this point, the Bobcat hat, I have a Bobcat hat, has only been worn on one show, not even mine. It was worn on the Jersey Joe show, who is the reaver of common sense. And after the break, I got to go over to the closet, which is right over there, pull it out. I'll show you the Bobcat hat. Now, everybody will either be absolutely eked out or they'll think that's really fucking cool. Anyway, what other government before this one has taken the burden amongst themselves to try to actually save the taxpayers some money, none of which I am aware. Let's go back to the comments, because the comments are, as Sean says, at least hit the like button to pay for the free show that you're getting. Ooh, free. Nice. And also, Sean makes an observation. I am customarily want to say something similar to, shut up, liver, you're fine, okay? I'm done with your complaints. But Sean says, BZ, if it weren't for vodka, you would already have had the factory issue. It sustains you first of the night because as, God, I can't even think of the band, but they used to say, you got to live on heavy, heavy fuel. And folks, I live on heavy fuel. Anyway, also, it's more amazing if you know the history of Clyde the Bobcat. Yeah, I will show everyone the Bobcat hat. Oh, and Reverb Common Sense, Jersey Joe. I haven't even gotten into the show yet. Just a bantering, a tete-a-tete between myself and the other individuals who are here. And thanks to everybody for being here and being in the chat room. Oh, also, speaking of, let me show you this. I have a couple of chat rooms, but the one which has the most individuals and the most cute and fuzzy persons there is the SHR Media chat room in YouTube. So please jump into my plush, sumptuous, and palatial and resplendent, because it is resplendent, chat room on SHR Media YouTube channel. That'd be a wonderful thing for you to do, and join all the rest of the individuals that are there in the chat room itself. Now, I have changed the chat room again, as some people saw last time. Not exactly spring, or is it spring yet? Spring is sprung, the grass is riz. I wonder where the birdies is. Is it spring yet? Well, it isn't spring around here because we're still getting some snow. So this chat room reflects what's currently going on in NOFE, N-O-F-E, Idaho. And you can jump into the chat room. And again, thanks to KLRN's Rick Robinson for simulcasting the show. And if he's not doing it live tonight, it's because he has no space, and or with luck and perhaps a few Greckles, perhaps he will replay it either tomorrow or the day after. So again, thanks to everybody for being here. What I have consistently said is it's kind of my new mantra. With the new technology that I have, as long as I can make it operate, I'm not just going to make claims about any number of topics. The cool thing is I can bring these articles to life, and I can bring the videos associated with various topics to life in a way that I couldn't have done before, in a way that I lacked the technology to be able to do so or to operate, because StreamYard is a little bit simpler than the other stuff that we had. XSplit, I think, is the one that we had before. I don't need to make any of this stuff up. It makes itself up. And then when I show you the articles and or play the videos, and I have a host of them tonight, it's, again, illustrating that I don't have to make this stuff up. It's right in front of our faces. And like the rest of the folks, it's also in the faces of the American media maggots. And it's there to be picked up if they wish. Primarily, they don't wish, which is why you don't see a lot of information, because they are not interested in presenting these things to you. I typically do not present a lot of leftist type crap on this show because they have so many other media outlets in which to do that. Magazines, internet magazines, the American media maggots, the typical ones themselves, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, blah, blah. And all the other places, all the other websites that they have. You want to read about that stuff? Go there. You want to read about it? You want to read about an aggregator? Go to Drudge Report. Drudge Report changed once Drudge was no longer favored by OMB 45. And so, by the way, I also recommend this. Let me see if I can show you this. I should have thought about pulling it up, but I used to go to Drudge Report, and people used to say, "Oh, Drudge Report, it's a terrible site. It shows all these terrible articles." Drudge Report, like this site, they don't write their articles. Matt Drudge wrote one article. It was about Monica Lewinsky and a semen stain on a dress. That is how Matt Drudge got to be Matt Drudge. And he built an empire behind it. I don't even go there anymore. It's an absolute waste of my time. I go to Citizen Free Press. You'll find a ton of stuff here that I customarily do not find any other location. And I think it's a great and wonderful place to go. I'm going to weigh in just a moment on Democrats generally being in a corner, a self-created corner, and also about how we've been betrayed from within. But these are just in, if I can put this up, this is the Wisconsin Supreme Court special election. And Susan Crawford has been declared the winner over Brad Schimel. Brad Schimel is the individual for whom Elon Musk said that he would donate $1 million to somebody. I don't know who won. And you have to remember, so BZ, why would Wisconsin and a Supreme Court election in Wisconsin have anything to do with anything? And the short answer is, well, it's going to have a lot to do with seats and gerrymandering. And it's believed that as a result of this, Democrats in Wisconsin will be able to gerrymander new districts, essentially creating 2 new seats in the House of Representatives. That is why, for example, that the Democrats would love to create D.C. as the 51st state, or say Guam. What's the first thing that occurs when a state becomes a state? It gets 2 new senators. If you go to D.C., you make it a state, or Guam a state, it automatically acquires 2 new senators each. And then the Senate gets flipped. Why else would they want D.C.? D.C. is a piece of shit. If you've ever been to D.C., it's psychotic. It is schizophrenic. There are all these wonderful... Here, let's jump out of this for a moment so that I may opine. I stayed in D.C. for a while. I was assigned there working for an agency. And while I was there, one of the first things that I discovered on my days off, because I first got assigned to New York, back then, super shithole. D.C., kind of not much better at all. But around the monuments that are there, it's a wonderful place. And everyone should experience D.C. at least one time. But it's schizophrenic in terms of, as I am wont to say, half a block. What was it, if I recall correctly? East of the Supreme Court building. And it's as if there were an invisible wall there, and the neighborhoods turned to trash. Now, it should not shock you that the neighborhoods that have turned to trash are primarily inhabited by Black Americans, because D.C. primarily doesn't give a shit about Black Americans. But they still vote for Democrats, which is one of the strangest experiences. But if you step outside of the area for the monuments in D.C., you'll find it's kind of a crazy, semi-scary place. I could go on about D.C., but I truly shouldn't. In any event, the bad aspect of it, of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, is it's apparently fairly likely that there will be, after gerrymandered districts in the state of Wisconsin, It's surmised possibly 2 more Congress critters going into D.C. itself from Wisconsin. And then, of course, as I said before, it should actually be no surprise because what's in Wisconsin? Milwaukee, one of the sort of northeast, mostly north, aspects and centers of insanity in the United States. It's just kind of a crazy place. Went there one time on an extradition, went to Lambeau Field, picked up some Lambeau grass because I used to be, when I watched the NFL, a great Green Bay backer, a great Green Bay fan. Purchased a cheese head while I was there. And I had the guy that we were bringing back hold the cheese head in belly chains. That was funny. I got a photo of that somewhere. In any event, that was, well, that's Wisconsin. We're going to have to deal with it as we deal with it. But I also want to address this because the Democrats and the leftists were saying something similar to, don't count on holding any of these seats in Florida. And as it turned out, it looks like we held the seats because there was one, oh, shoot. I went to this one too early. Let me back my own self up a little bit. Here we go. This is what I wanted to display. The special elections to replace Matt Gaetz and Matt Waltz. It appears as though both Republicans in those special elections have won. Jimmy Patronis and Randy Fine. So that's some good news. The Democrats were saying, no, that'll never happen. Well, it appears to have happened. So this country itself is a bit weird, a bit psychotic itself. And when I get after the break and when I go into the Republicans and what the Republicans did recently, because we have at least 9 that were anti-Trump, I'm going to begin to illustrate how Democrats are in a corner and they think that they are basically sitting in the catbird seat in a number of issues, and they are not. And it turns out that the DLG, what I call the Democrats, the leftists, and the globalists, have all wonderfully managed to paint themselves into said corner. And it's definitely a petard upon which they are all being hoisted right now of their own creation, as I indicated. It is, and we all have enjoyed watching it unfold directly before our eyes. It's actually fairly entertaining. And while we are tempted to laugh and have a bit of a kerfuffle over it all and rib each other, we can have some fun over a wee bit of schadenfreude, some laughter, some finger pointing. Never forget that the Democrats, leftists, and globalists will never stop fighting. They are on a course to betray us from within. And I will, when we come back, also indicate, after a bit of standing on my soapbox for a moment or two, show you what recently happened with regard to the GOP. I am less than pleased. And it's from that, essentially, that I decided I was going to do the show tonight in terms of America being betrayed from within. It is definitely being betrayed from within. And the thing that I hope that everyone takes from the show tonight, and certainly at the conclusion, is that this little dust up, this little kerfuffle of the Democrats is temporary. And we must always look at it as temporary. We can never, ever allow them to take the lead on anything. We can never afford to cede anything to them. Never not take them seriously. Never look the other way. Never become distracted, because that is exactly what they are wanting. For you to look over in one direction while with sleight of hand they pull any number of stupid, perhaps illegal via Thug's Law things over on the other side, on the other end. Never allow them, the DLG, the Democrats, leftists, and globalists, and for that matter, the American media maggots, never allow them to define us, and never bite on anything that they are pitching.
You're listening to Late Night Radio.
Because they are always pitching something. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night Conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. I am BZ, one each. There is only one lunker like me. I am bulbosity unrestrained. I am so large, as someone prior to me was wont to say, I have my own gravitational pull, and I have my own vodka. As they used to say, drink too much vodka and you vomit. Or words similar to that, Professor. And also, my other favorite Russian saying is moose and squirrel. Moose and squirrel. Some will get it, some may not. That's too sad, because one of my finest cartoons ever. And Fractured Flickers. Anybody remember Fractured Flickers? Peabody and Sherman? And the Wayback Machine. I certainly do. Anyway, 25 people watching live right now. Greatly appreciate it. I said before that we can never cede anything to Democrats, to the DLG, Democrats, leftists, and globalists. Because it is they who are the defilers. It is they who are the racists, the misogynists, the advocators of violence, the committers of violence, the violent themselves. It is they who are tyrannical. It is they who are the haters of free speech. They despise freedom. They despise liberty. They despise people who like independence. It is they who are the intolerant, the unhinged. They hate, despise a free society. They despise capitalism. And it is they who, they cannot even tolerate questions. They cannot be questioned. They have no interest in rationality and all the things that I indicate every night on the beginning of my show. You have to consider that 80-20 paradigm. Democrats, leftists, and globalists are now on the 20% side of just about everything. And I don't think that particularly they have the capability within themselves to stop with that. Hashtag because Trump. See if you can delineate any other reason, because that's where they are now on most every level. There are a few Democrats advocating for a little bit of common sense. John Fetterman, we all know about John Fetterman. He had a massive change. He had a huge brainless change. And what occurred is that he had a stroke. He had a very difficult time coming back from the stroke, but he was able to do that. He went into Walter Reed Hospital behind what is essentially a 5150 commitment. He wanted to get things straight. God bless him for doing that. And he is a changed man after coming back out. Changed these days equals, mostly hated by the rest of the Democrats. Bill Maher has changed. Some of the things he's been saying rather consistently for a while, but even he can see that the lunacy on the left is rampant, and it doesn't appear to be ramping down from that. Then there's Gavin Newsom. Never, ever, 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 for those of you who just tuned in, ever think that Gavin Newsom is going to tell you anything straight to your face. He is as false a human as possible, but he isn't an empty suit. He's beginning to sense which way the political prairie winds are blowing, but don't believe that he truly within himself thinks any of the things with which he is now advocating. When you disagree with a Democrat or a leftist, it doesn't end there. You can't question. You must be in complete lockstep. You cannot color outside of any line whatsoever. No excuses. Every issue is vital. Every issue is crucial. Every issue is a hill upon which to die if you're a leftist and a Democrat. Gavin Newsom has painted himself into a corner. The Democrats have painted themselves into a corner. And Newsom is just a different animal. Yeah, you could say he's painting himself into a corner, but he's also looking ahead to 2028. The dude already measured the drapes in the Oval Office. He was there at one point during the Biden presidency. And I'm sure he had a DeWalt slide rule with him, or a DeWalt tape, and he was doing literally all the messaging back then. He's trying to figure out a way to kind of get himself off that 20% demanded path and still survive, because he'd said some terrible things about tranny units that the left are not in keeping with. In the air they currently breathe, they're finding it very difficult to exist outside of that 20% bubble. In their mind, the 80%, us, the 80%, those people with common sense, we're not just wrong, we're dead wrong. They'd like to see us dead. I have videos, if I get to them tonight, illustrating exactly that. And you must not be just dismissed. You got to be trashed. You got to be ruined. You got to demolished. You have to be demolished. You have to be eliminated. They have literally and are literally advocating for the death of any number of people. And of course, BZ's reversal role and the logical extension is what would be occurring had these things been said, or said now, by Republicans of Democrats, and or people that were perceived to be Democrats by Republicans. So they will brook no pushback, no dissonance. You are in either complete Stasi lockstep with them, or they're through. You know, the burning of Tesla vehicles, the burning of charging stations. I have videos, again, if I get to them, illustrating all of that. The American media maggots are, of course, complicit in this. But it's unique, and I've never seen this before, in terms of the American media maggots having their own little hands wrapped around their own throats and squeezing as hard as possible on their collective carotids. That's difficult to. It's a very difficult concept to grok, to see this. Now, we knew that they have essentially no believability left. They are the best indicators of who's lying. And again, more things if I get to them to make a clear illustration of that. The corner into which they have painted is going to be up to them to see if they can pull themselves out. They are beholden, we must admit, to their base, their 20% base, and the money that stems from that, from their activists in terms of fiscal support. George Soros, big money, big cash, only flows if the Democrats and leftists stay within kind of that 20 percentile bubble. At this point, they don't really have a chance of getting out of that bubble. But as I said earlier, make no mistake, don't count on them to be able to remain there. Though, as I've said any number of times, remember the rule of holes, and when your enemy is killing themselves, let them. It's very simple. Screaming for gang members to stay in the United States of America is a nation killer. They don't care. Demanding a continuously open border is a nation killer. They don't care. Paying to support illegal invaders and demanding more, going to their favorite black-robed leftist anarchist judges is a nation killer. They don't care. Why do you think these individual judges are chosen time and again for all of these lawfare, judge-fare, judicial fare against Donald Trump? They demand more radicals, more Islamists, more terrorists, more men in women's sports, more men in girls' bathrooms, and more throttling of those evil small businesses and large corporations simultaneously. The 2026 midterms have the propensity to be a true waypoint. This is where we are, conservatives. We have to ask ourselves, are our wins resonating with the populace? Or are they listening to the 20%? And again, this continues to be so regional. Milwaukee, the leftist capital of Wisconsin, which at one time was kind of a nice state. After 2020, that's been blown through the roof. Do not think that anything good is going to come out of Wisconsin. I wouldn't trust their cheese and I wouldn't trust their milk. How the conundrum is for some of these Democrats and leftists is, how do you go moderate without completely slashing your chances of winning, in Newsom's case, the 2028 election? Because, like I said, guaranteed, that's the prize upon which he is focused right now, like a laser beam. And the only customer base of the Democrats everywhere is that 20%. Those are the only people that they're really interested in talking to. They have to be forced and are being forced in their little newsrooms all across the fruited plain. They're being kicked out. They're losing jobs. And still, they're not reading the room. They're not reading the ticket. They don't see November. All they see is, in their minds, true evil that needs to be eliminated, period, end of statement. Does the 80%, this is a question that needs to be answered, and I'm not sure how Wisconsin deals with this. Does the 80% ever find it within themselves to go back to the 20%? Like comfort food. Is that what happened in Wisconsin? Did Elon Musk piss him off? Did abortion piss him off? Because, as we all know, leftists demand hot and cold running abortion 24/7. There are no two ways about it. There is no moderate position on abortion. Yeah, the baby comes out dead, or the baby stays in the womb. There's not real much in between. And this is where I return to emphasize emphasizingly with emphasis tonight. We can never stop fighting, ever. It's got to be daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, because President Donald John Trump thankfully sleeps about 35 seconds a night. And I think Elon Musk is pretty much in that corner as well. And I truly believe that they both are fighting for the much unheralded American taxpayer. You and me. We've never seen this before. Ever. This is so unique. And that, I think, is why the bulk of Democrats are gobsmacked. They have never seen anybody with this ability before. This has never occurred in their time. They literally do not know what to do. And I would rather them keep on that course, but do not count on the fact that they're straying. Do not count on the fact that they will find it. They will find a way to circle the wagons. They always have. The disarray, count on it's being temporary. Yeah, we can hope it's permanent. We ask ourselves, how can it not be? But never count on the probity, the temperance, and the logic of the average American citizen. Some people are not average. And of course, a bulk are not citizens with everything to gain and very little to lose, except for some of the things that are occurring these days. Look at the things revealed now. And this still amazes me with the continuing revelations that are going on in government, in history, the government corruption on a scale that is directly in front of everyone's face. To say that it is unprecedented is such an incredible understatement. And yet, no calls for torches and pitchforks on the conservative side. Just calls for and I will be illustrating this, just calls for, I don't know, let's not be real hasty about this stuff, right? Take it slow. You have to take it slow. So on one hand, while we're kind of giggling endlessly and joyously at the public and the private bedlam and chaos that's going on, we have to be sufficiently wise to remember one pretty much continuous thingy. The Democrats have been historically pretty damn good about circling the wagons, coalescing, and pushing through hundreds of thousands of tons of crazy shit through pressure, lawfare, unity, thugs law, corruption, waste, fraud, abuse. Abusey, why do you say all those standard words? Because there are no words that are indicative of what's directly occurring right in front of our face. It is waste, fraud, and abuse. There are no better adjectives to bandy about. Because for a good part, the average American is too busy trying to find a job, trying to work, trying to make a wage, trying to pay bills. And the other people that are being supported, like the rest of Europe, and the rest of the world, because the American taxpayer funds the entire damn planet, not just the nation, not just our nation. They're just trying to make a wage. Americans are just trying to make a wage. And they just primarily, fundamentally, I think, want to be left alone. Get the fuck out of my job. Get the fuck out of my work, United States government. I've had enough of this shit. But the reason that they don't coalesce is they're busy. They're busy working. They're busy paying taxes. And they are quite aware of what happens should they stop. They just want to have a few pennies here and there jangling around in their pocket for some certs or some mints or some gum, or maybe go see a movie, or maybe go take their kid to the park, or maybe to some kind of a place that requires an admission fee or a zoo or something like that. And that's why I say never stop fighting. They can afford to lapse. They, the Democrats and leftists, can afford to lapse. They're supported on so many levels. We cannot afford to lapse. We conservatives, we who are still kind of sort of Republicans. I am not. I am an independent. We lovers of America. We lovers of freedom and liberty and sovereignty and independence. Yeah, sure. Okay. Democrats have shot themselves. Maybe we can, I said this last time, maybe we can even see the clear cerebrospinal fluid leaking out their ears and nudge somebody else and say, what the hell? I see that over there. But I just want to insist that we can never afford to take it easy. We can never afford to take it easy. When we go back and we say, okay, here are a couple of wins right here. Those are some wonderful wins. Yeah, let's cheer about that. This is not a win. This is not what a win looks like. And this is to ensure that you are fully cognizant of the fact that these people are not going to stop. They're not going to back down. They're not going to stop. We got to win. We got to kick their asses, because if for no other reason, that's exactly what they have done to all of us over these years. And they will do in the future. They will continue to do this in the future if we take our collective conservative eyes off the ball. Do not count on what you hope for. Count on what you can do. We never can afford to stop fighting, because America is most definitely being betrayed from within. And for that, I have to go over here. Now, I'm going to have to, it's not necessarily terribly complicated, but there is a very specific series of issues that are involved in this. And that is the Democrats essentially shat in Donald Trump's pool, so to say. The Trump agenda upended after the GOP rebellion shuts down the House floor. GOP rebellion. Did you guys hear about a GOP rebellion? I'm not sure I did. But the reason that you watch and listen to the show is to know and understand what is going on. So, rebellion. What the hell kind of rebellion are you talking about? It's a fight over proxy voting for new parents at the heart of the issue. So, it's what they call kind of a sleepy, procedural little vote. And it was a rebellion by 9 House Republicans against their own party. And chamber proceedings ground to a halt. And Speaker Mike Johnson said, you know what? Votes are going to be canceled for the rest of the week in comments condemning the mutiny. And he said, it's very disappointing down here on the floor. A handful of Republicans joined with all the Democrats to take down a rule. That's rarely done. It's very unfortunate. That rule being brought down means we can't have any further action on the floor this week. It's a procedural hurdle. And you're thinking, oh, well, the Democrats are nothing but process. They're about process. But it's process that you can shoot that can shoot you in the eye if you're not careful. And you have to realize who your friends are and who they are not. And I will name Republicans who are not your friend. And you will see them. Well, you won't see them, but you will hear their names. And I want you to understand who they are and where they come from. The rule would have allowed for debate and floor consideration of bills that would have limited district judges' ability to levy nationwide injunctions and would have mandated proof of citizenship to register to vote. Now, this wasn't getting down to a vote itself. This was just a discussion of a rule that would allow for debate on the floor. So it sparked a backlash among Republicans who supported Luna in trying to do this. And the Republicans who voted against this said that, well, we're not happy procedurally, and I will get to the meat of the matter, because I only have about 3 more minutes before the top of the hour break. Some Republicans that voted against, and make no mistake, this is a stab in the eye to Donald John Trump. They said they were frustrated with being kept in the dark by House leaders until the final moments before the committee vote on Tuesday morning. All Republicans on the committee voted for the rule, however. And who did this? Remember, I go back to this is a rule on just allowing a discussion, a debate on the floor about intemperate judges. Didn't even get there. Didn't even fucking get down to the floor. Representatives Tim Burchett, Tennessee, Jeff Van Drew, New Jersey, Greg Stoiber, Florida, Ryan McKenzie, Pennsylvania, Nick LaLatta, New York, Max Miller, Ohio, Mike Lawler, New York, were among those who voted to kill the rule. So, House GOP leaders could still call an emergency session of the House Rules Committee to consider modified language that doesn't target discharge petitions. And I go back. This is procedural. Some got miffed, and those who became miffed and supported miffedness decided, and they were never in the corner of Donald John Trump anyway, because they are not the ones that are subject to the leftist judicial lawfare, the black-robed anarchists in a singular district stopping Donald John Trump from the rest of the nation. And people have consistently said, how can this happen? I don't know. Well, no, I do know. I absolutely know. It's lawfare. It's judicial fare. And it's anything, anywhere, anytime, all the time to get in the way of Donald John Trump. Period. End of statement. When people say, oh, it's not about Trump, it's about the process. Fuck it, fuck them. It's all about Trump.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. It is the beginning of the second hour. Quite frankly, I wasn't sure that my voice was going to be able to last into the second hour. I thank you ever so kindly for being here. If you would go to the SHR Media YouTube channel and hit bing, subscribe, bing, just like that. Subscribe. If we can make it this week to 500 subscribers, we could just about rule the universe. I could rule the universe if I could only find the parts, because imagine raccoons have opposable thumbs. Oh shit. I should tell you my raccoon story sometime, because that completely kerfuffled me. So anyway, Big E says he's got to go. He's an early riser and he's a working man. So Big E, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Let me also add this in as well, as per normal. Okay. I'll show you this because what did I say? There's so much going on. How do you keep up or keep track? Look up here. If this isn't enough to either make you laugh or, involve a little emesis, these are all the stories that I want to talk about tonight. Those are all the stories I want to talk about tonight. And I'm not going to make it. Not by a fraction. So What do you think perhaps I may be talking about this coming Thursday night? 30 people watching live. Thanks to everybody who is here. Grandly appreciated. But this is another graphic example of what happens when the Republicans and the conservatives do not have their eyes on the ball. Democrats scored a shocking win in Lancaster, Pennsylvania's state Senate special election. This story now is March 28th. It's a couple of days ago, but it makes my point. The Lancaster loss wasn't a fluke. It was the inevitable decision and a result of refusing to compete under the rules that actually decide elections in the Keystone State. This guy says, I got it wrong. I got this wrong. And sometimes these big things right here in articles, these are termed call-outs. And a call-out takes a big point from an article so that everybody groks that concept. We cannot afford to sit out the mail-in game and hope for a red wave to appear by magic on any election day. If it's legal, if it's lawful, we need to be doing it. And the point of the article comes right here. The Democrats essentially said, we'll turn out. The consultants, Republican consultants said, it's going to be a cakewalk. You got this, baby. You got this. And the author says, they were wrong, and I was really wrong to believe them. Who was this guy? Cliff Maloney in Pennsylvania. And the point was, let's be very clear about why this happened. The Democrats crushed us in mail-in voting. And Democrats, we can't do that. There can't be voting. And if it's legal, if it's lawful, we need to be doing it. You cannot afford to cede anything to the Democrats because they will never ever cede anything over to you. Like, for example, Signalgate. Now, I find this very interesting. I don't know that there is a specific answer for any of this, but I find it very interesting, and I hope that's why you're here. Is I will present any number of reasons that I discover on the internet, which apparently the American media maggots never can. And I just go seeking. No, it's not a moisture missile. Stop thinking like that. Oh, you guys to the moon. But I find all sorts of things, and I will not consider them. For example, here's one. Now, say what you will about Laura Loomer. She's kind of an interesting chick. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she was the first to suggest that Alex Wong, the Chinese Deputy National Security Advisor, appointed by President Trump, okay, you do see where a little bit of this is going, happens to be at the center of the Signalgate scandal. He's married to U.S. Attorney Candace Chu Wong, a Chinese woman who was one of the key attorneys involved in prosecuting J6ers. Let's continue. Alex Wong was appointed by Trump on November 22nd, 24, to serve as the assistant to the president and the principal deputy national security advisor under Mike Waltz. He's the new national security advisor himself. So Laura Loomer writes, I've discovered that Alex's wife, Candace Wong, worked under the Obama administration and the Biden administration as an assistant United States attorney. That's an AUSA. Oh, the stories I could tell you about dealing with AUSAs. in the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, where she led the Violence Reduction and Traffic Offenses section for more than 2 years. She was involved in the prosecution of J6ers during the Biden regime, under which she was nominated to become a member of the United States Sentencing Commission. Additionally, Candace Wong served as a law clerk to Obama-appointed U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, a wise Latina. If anybody had ever said, I'm a wise white guy, I would be considered a racist. But because it's Sotomayor, being a wise Latina, she's not racist much. So Laura Loomer asked, why do we have a Chinese deputy national security advisor who is married to a Chinese U.S. attorney who worked under Obama and Biden and helped prosecute J6ers after the 2020 election? And why is this acceptable? Well, you do have to ask yourself that question. And then if you're not willing to ask the questions even, then why are you here? As she continues, now I'm going through this kind of chronologically. This began on March 26th. And so here's another X publication. I think this is also, March 26th. And she says, there have been some debates in D.C. about whether or not Alex Wong, the Deputy National Security Advisor, is truly loyal to President Trump. She states, I do not believe he is. I think he's worth more trouble than anything positive he is supposedly capable of bringing to the table. But he has an army of neocons defending him since he's the direct line of access to the president. Everybody should know that Alex Wong tried to hire Matthew Kronig to work at the NSC. So, okay, so what? Who's this Matthew Kronig guy? He's another guy that spent the 2016 cycle smearing President Trump as a national security threat. So Kronig works with the Atlantic Council, which, by the way, I spoke of before almost about a month ago. The Atlantic Council happens to have 7 ex-CIA directors on its board and was involved in censoring President Trump during the 2020 election. Anybody remember the 51 intelligence individuals who said Trump was bad, OMB bad, very bad guy, and he needs to be taken out in some fashion? Well, that was part and parcel of that. Oh, well, what if we complicate things just a little bit more? What if we discovered the Atlantic Council, and when I did my USAID show, I revealed this. What if it turns out the Atlantic Council, which is staffed by 7 ex-CIA directors, and you know how they love Trump. What if I told you it was funded by USAID, the Pentagon, and the State Department? Who votes what direction in the State Department? About 95% Democrat. And then what about the controversy that was going on between the Atlantic Council and Burisma? That happens to be the same Ukrainian energy company Hunter Biden worked with. Burisma and the Atlantic Council signed a joint agreement January 19th, 2017, which coincidentally happens to be one day before President Trump became president for his first term. So following J6th, this guy Koenig co-authored an article titled, "Will the World Take the United States Seriously After the Capitol Invasion?" I don't know, seems to me that it's taking the United States of America these days very seriously. Very seriously. By the way, this guy Koenig, who was appointed by Wong, accused President Trump and his supporters of debasing themselves in the GOP, and he compared Trump to a dictator. Well, why not? You know, the H word should be in there next, should it not? Dictator, Hitler, Mussolini kept the trains running on time. So now he's trying to cover up his history of Trump hatred, and even penned an op-ed with Mike Waltz, the new NSC director, on November 2nd, 2025, 3 days before the 2024 election. So it seems like this guy Koenig has been trying to position himself as an important dude. and was able to do that. So these are questions that, in my estimation, do in fact need to be asked, and they need to be answered. There are some questions about Mike Waltz. Now, would it be surprising that I happen to have a video regarding Mike Waltz where he speaks to his defense on video? And I'm not labeling, I'm not trying to indicate a pejorative because I do not know for sure. But I certainly need to ask questions because I'm at the point in my life and in my political history and in this show where I don't trust almost nothing. I don't trust fucking nobody, and I don't trust fucking nothing, because I have been dragged kicking and screaming into that quadrant of the universe, as I'll wager a good percentile of you have as well. So here's Mike Waltz. Do you believe him? You got to ask yourself now, is he a good guy? What kind of a guy is he? Is this a replay in 47 of some of the ill appointments of 45? I ask the question. And consider to repeat, there is so much going on these days. How do you keep track? How do you know? How do you keep up? Well, let's play and see what Mike Waltz has to say. Now, Mike Waltz says in this, and you will hear him say, that he did not add Jeffrey Goldberg, journalist from The Atlantic, to the Signal group. But he says he will find out who did. So apparently, if you believe him, it wasn't him. But there is information indicating that Alex Wong created the Signal chat group to discuss the operation against the Houthis. Oh, did I mention that it was a successful operation? I hope I did, and I certainly have now. Mike, go.
After success. So they want to focus on this. It's embarrassing, yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. After success. So they want to focus on this. It's embarrassing, yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the
Okay, he's talking about Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic.
sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happened.
So you don't know what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Okay, that's Laura Ingram. She's interviewing Mike Waltz on the Ingram angle.
Look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number?
execute.
I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So that's Waltz opining on that. And then we have this from Andrew Fisher. There's some breaking news that just came out that I'm going to mention here in a moment. And thanks to the people in chat for making me aware. Andrew Fisher says most likely it was Waltz's deputy, Alex Wong, who created the group chat and accidentally added Goldberg instead of Jameson Greer. JG, Jameson Greer, Jonah Goldberg. It was just a heads-up chat group for coordination among deputies and staff from different branches of Intel. Hard to believe anything sensitive would be shared, but of course, you have that hoax propagandist Goldberg spinning it. But you have to ask yourself, and you should be asking yourself, okay, was it an accident? Do you believe it was an accident, or do you believe it was intentional? I'm going to break here just for a second. Apparently, Val Kilmer has passed away. He's dead at the age of 65. He made it through the second Top Gun movie. I really historically enjoyed Val Kilmer movies. There are a number of them that I bet you guys have not seen. He had a bunch of bad things occur to him. He wasn't the huge box office sensation anymore. He stopped doing a great deal of movies. He got big. He got fat. He wasn't fit for a lot of the leading roles. And then, damn him, he got cancer. He got cancer, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was throat or neck cancer. And he had been fighting that for, to my recollection, about 8 to 10 years. That was not his voice that you heard in the newest Top Gun. He had a very troubled life with the cancer. He was an actor that I enjoyed watching, and I'm sad that he passed away. As Sean indicated, he was a great actor. He wasn't always wonderful behind the camera, but he was, in fact, incredible as an actor. So, yeah, hats off to Val Kilmer. It was pretty much assumed that cancer was going to get him, and that's a relatively young age, although 65 years is better than 45 years or 55 years. Let's continue with Laura Loomer. When Signalgate exposed the Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg was added to a Troop Group admin, she did some digging. Now, again, this is a few days later. I'm marching this through chronologically, starting with March 26th. This is now March 29th. Alex Wong is Mike Waltz's Deputy National Security Advisor. He's married to a DOJ attorney named Candace Chongwu, who worked under Biden and Obama. What you're not hearing, and this is obviously true, you're not hearing this from the GOP or from conservative media. And she says and alleges this is what happens when you don't properly vet national security officials. You vet the president, you embarrass the president. I'm going to play her video in just a moment. I have always said, I do not love Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. It'd be nice to have him for a dinner sometime, but I do not love him, and I do not love all of his positions. He has made some fairly serious mistakes as 45. He will continue to make mistakes as 47, but he's primarily going the right direction, the right way, the right day. And I believe that he truly has in his own mind the betterment of the United States of America in his decision-making process than pretty much any other president up to this point. Any of them. And I would say including Reagan. Reagan did some good things, and he did some screwball things that he didn't have to do. And Republicans have screwed the pooch on any number of occasions, to include Nixon. But having said that, the only good presidential candidate, perfect presidential candidate would be me, and I'm not running. Laura, what do you say?
Alex Wong is the Deputy National Security Advisor serving under Michael Waltz. He is also an assistant to President Donald Trump. And if you're following my reports, then you'll see that Alex Wong is one of the individuals who was in the...
Sadly, sorry, Mike, I called you Matt. You're Mike Waltz. Sorry, I apologize.
Signal chat that Michael Waltz is now taking responsibility for setting up. But if you look at the Signal messages, it clearly says that, oh, Alex Wong is my deputy and I put him in charge with making sure that everybody gets in this chat. And the controversy is how a leftist reporter by the name of Jeffrey Goldberg, who works for a hostile anti-Trump publication known as The Atlantic, was able to get added to this top secret chat with intel officials and key administration officials. And it's now quite an embarrassment to the Trump administration.
And that's the crux of the biscuit, is it not? Of course it is. How did this happen? Are we going to admit it? And that did occur. And will it happen again? But we can never stop asking questions. Never stop asking questions. Mike Waltz continues. Let me put this on the stage and continue.
I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is a bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happens.
So you don't.
So he continues to say, this is essentially the same cut as before. This is from Paul Zispola. It was a setup to attack the Trump admin right before the hearing. And then, of course, this is worse than World War II. This is potential World War III. You cannot have everyone must be fired. Everyone must be fired. Say the Democrats and leftists. Oh, but look, BZ found something else, because I should look and find things that others are not interested in display. And that is this. Houthi PC small group, 19 members. Michael Waltz added you to the group. Disappearing message time set to 1 week. Michael Waltz. Team. Establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly over the next 72 hours. My deputy, Alex Wong, is pulling together a Tiger team at Deputies Agency Chief of Staff level, following up from the meeting in the sit room this morning for action items, and we'll be sending that out later this evening. Well, gee, to me, that appears pretty damn clear. And why this terrible hate, BZ? Why this terrible depiction of Chinese that we know are in our country, cells that are in our country, proprietary information stolen, continuing to be stolen from universities and corporations, because China is our enemy. Ask Eric Swalwell, ask Dianne Feinstein, ask Pelosi, ask Chuck Schumer, ask Tim Nuts. Tampon Tim. Exclusive, how a small town in America stopped the Chinese communist takeover, a party takeover. A U.S. electric vehicle battery manufacturer with ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, stop right there. Let me make this singularly clear, if I may. Any business that is in China, every business that is in China is linked inexorably to the Communist Party. The Communist Party has its feet, eyes, hands, tendrils in every Chinese business. If it's a Chinese business, it's overseen by the Chinese Communist Party. Period. End of statement. So there isn't anything that occurs in corporate America regarding a Chinese corporation that isn't finagled by the CCP. So a U.S. electric vehicle battery manufacturer suspended its permit application to build a plant near a Michigan National Guard following fierce opposition. Well, wait, fierce opposition. Thank you. All of those things should be continued. So this guy said, Chuck Thalen said the decision stemmed from the firm's ongoing breach of contract lawsuit against Green Charter Township, according to the Big Rapids Pioneer. The township soured on the $2.4 billion project in November 2023, after voters recalled numerous officials following a series of reports revealing Goshen and its Chinese parent companies tied to the CCP. America? You can no longer afford to be stupid. Silly, stupid, and fattening. Let me continue by saying China is our enemy. China has always been our enemy. China will always be our enemy. And by the way, did I happen to say that China is our enemy?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are in the final half hour of the show. 30 people watching live right now. Thanks to every one of you silly-ass bastards for being here. Oh, and possibly bastardettes, because you're as nuts as I am. Just ask any Democrat, leftist, or globalist. So thanks to Rick Robinson, who will be playing the show, I believe, later on in podcast. Thanks for being in the sumptuous, palatial, resplendent chat room. And please subscribe to the SHR Media channel on YouTube. We're just a hair's breadth away from 500 big subscriptions. Now, it may not mean much to you, but it certainly means a host of great things to us. To me, personally, you've heard me mention vodka before. You know, something my KC-135 Kettle One refueling team generously provides me post-show. Thank you for that. I get either that or more cat food or blinker fluid. You don't need so much blinker fluid these days because I think, as I said before, isn't it already spring? It may be. I should keep track of the seasons much more closely. So share the show. Thanks for being here tonight. I am ever so kindly thanking you for all of these things. All these things and more. All of these things. Now, I could say something similar to this is, we might be ready for this. Are we?
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Maybe it is. This was a grand comeback, not dissimilar from Grand Funk Railroad, but let's watch and let's see. Do I have the sound on? Yes, I do. Go.
Congressman Perry, do you trust Trump's national security team to keep our war plans top secret?
You trust your mother every night to fix your hot pockets and make sure your Game Boy is turned on.
Okay, stop. Stop. All right. That is so wonderful. I'm going to play it again.
Congressman Perry, do you trust Trump's national security team to keep our war plans top secret?
Do you trust your mother every night to fix your hot pockets and make sure your Game Boy is turned on?
And that, oh, wait. If I only had a producer, you would have heard something similar to combined with, because that is some great stuff right there. Now, some people said this was a setup. I'm not sure that it was. I really don't think it was. Well, it may have been a setup from the little leftist with the phone, but I think basically that this guy, I can't think of his name because it's not up here right now. Tim Burchett? Not sure. In any event, I think he'd had this in his brain for quite some time and just waiting for the perfect opportunity to throw it into the mix. Let's also talk about this in terms of a happy story. Democrats in Congress now have a wonderful 21% approval rating. That's down from 25, down from 24. Now it's 21%.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's got to be a happy story, don't you think? I certainly do. And what's up next for bid? Oh, I have 2 points to make with regard to this. One of them, do you guys ever watch The Five? I don't watch nearly as much Fox as I used to. There are a few shows that I will still watch. The Five, occasionally one of them, I cannot stand to listen to Jessica Tarloff. And the only reason that I semi-tolerate that is because I listen for Greg Gutfeld. And I also just love the witty repartee between Jesse Waters and Jessica and Gutfeld. And I'm going to make a point in just a moment. And Jessica Tarloff today, I believe, and has historically continued to say that this poor little gay barber got deported. He got yanked out and he got shoved down to El Salvador. And this poor little guy's not going to make it in an El Salvadorian prison. And he's not a gangbanger. He couldn't possibly be a gangbanger. Could he? Well, let's listen.
First of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. In fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Fact number four is that foreign terrorists do not have legal protections in the United States of America anymore. And it is within the president's executive authority and power to deport these heinous individuals from American communities. It is a promise he campaigned on. It is a promise he is keeping. And every single person in this room should be grateful for that, considering especially MS-13 is very prevalent and prominent here in the District of Columbia, in Maryland, and in Virginia. And the president, the attorney general, everyone who has been involved in these operations is focused on eradicating these criminals and terrorists from our communities.
Well, I think that's a wonderful thing, don't you? But see, Democrats, leftists, and globalists, especially the people here in this nation, I will get back to the ICE response to this. But first, because we are, in fact, in happy stories, Two, I want to let everybody know that there are two prominent lawmakers who are introducing, and I love this name. I fucking love this name. The Return to Sender Act to rescind $3 billion allocated under the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. That's a 22 law sold as an inflation fix, but packed with green energy funding for the U.S. Postal Service Electric Vehicle Initiative. Now, BZ, I wonder, because you need to ask questions, right? You'd best. I wonder how many electric vehicles the U.S. Postal Service took delivery of for this lovely package of $3 billion. $3 billion with a B dollars to get electric vehicles for the United States Postal Service. And there were, I know, I hope you're sitting down. There were air quotes, concerns. There were concerns over production delays. Imagine that. And escalating costs associated with the program. You know, like a train going to nowhere. In the state of California, always spell it with a K. Senator Joni Ernst and Michael Cloud, Iowa and Texas, respectively, are seeking to reclaim $3 billion earmarked for establishing an electric vehicle fleet for the U.S. Postal Service under Biden, under the Inflation Reduction Act. So those members are of the Congressional Doge Caucus, and they are set to introduce legislation to claw back all that funding. Again, I repeat, at the risk of being repetitive with repetitiousness. The Return to Sender Act. Grandly applicable, of course, with the U.S. Post Office as well. Let's go to this. Now, we were talking about that poor boy, that poor guy. As I indicated here in X, the super important Jessica Tarlov, Newsweek, Democrats and leftists, say that this gay barber by the name of Jose Romero was mistakenly sucked up into an ICE raid. Poor fellow. How dare they do that to him? His tattoos, they mentioned crowns. His tattoos were simply crowns of goodwill and love. ICE doubles down and says, nope, no mistake. By the way, if it comes to trusting Jessica Tarlov, Democrats, leftists, or the American media maggots, I think you have an idea who I'll take. The Department of Homeland Security says DHS intelligence assessments determined he is a member of the vicious gang Trenderagua. DHS intelligence goes beyond a single tattoo, and we are confident in our findings. So this is when I say something similar to this guy, 2 words, which would be bye-bye. Bye-bye. Now, I don't know if you guys watch this. Some people say they don't even have cable anymore. And there are any number of shows that I still continue to watch. They happen to be on cable. And one of them is from this show, Billy Bob Thornton's new show. I kind of like Billy Bob Thornton. He had a great role in his last assignment as an actor. And this show is another Taylor Sheridan show. And Taylor Sheridan is all over the landscape these days. And I do enjoy his writing. And he writes most of his shows, most of the scripts thereof. But let's go back and let's enjoy this clip. I think directly aimed, although I think Taylor Sheridan leans left to moderate. Depends on the day. But this is a wondrous scene from his show, Landman. Take it away.
Do you have any idea how much diesel they have to burn to mix that much concrete or make that steel and haul this shit out here and put it together with a 450-foot crane? You want to guess how much oil it takes to lubricate that fucking thing or winterize it? and its 20-year lifespan, it won't offset the carbon footprint of making it. And don't get me started on solar panels and the lithium in your Tesla battery. And never mind the fact that if the whole world decided to go electric tomorrow, we don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the cities. It'd take 30 years if we started tomorrow. And unfortunately for your grandkids, we have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours, it's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic. Your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap, fucking hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Every fucking thing.
And he means it, and it's true. Examine what oil does for us, for everyone on the planet. That's Abby's story. Now, there's an individual, and okay, she's nuts. Let me play this first. Anyone remember Nina Jankowicz? And some of you out there right now, what do I got? I got about 14 minutes to go in the show because I'm not going to do any overtime. I'm losing my voice. Nina Jankowicz, she sounds really familiar during the Biden administration. Oh, yeah, she was the disinformation czar.
This is Orwellian. This is a ministry of truth. And the person they've appointed is a Democrat propagandist. She pushed the...
Go with me on this because I'm taking this somewhere. I'm taking this somewhere to something that happened today. Go.
Russian collusion with the Trump campaign hoax. She pushed the hoax that the laptop was some form of Russian information campaign.
So they tried to create a disinformation governance board to combat disinformation online. Well, wait a minute. Stop right there. Hold the horses. Who decides what's disinformation? Disinformacja. Well, do you possibly think that it's going to be you? Do you think it's going to be me? Do you think it's going to be anybody except the Democrats? Let me see if I can get to this. Oh, yeah. Because once I remember what, damn it, Jim. Okay. It's 9:47 on the far left coast, Pacific. It's 11:47 Central. It's 12:47 Eastern. And I know this is a late night show. And I recognize that it's late at night. And you're still up. Thank you for watching. There's still 30 people watching live right now that I can see through YouTube. So thanks to each and every one of you. But I'm about to put something in your head that you may not like me for. So let's put this back up onto the stage. And, let's just go.
Laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie, little lie. It's how you hide a little lie, little lie. It's how you hide a little lie, little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared that intel from Ukraine.
Okay, I think we've all had enough of that, haven't we? Because if that hasn't pierced your ossicles like a spearhead by now, and it's going to rattle around in your brain like a brain worm, like a sound brain worm. BZ, damn it, why did you do that? Comma, you bastard. Just before I'm about to go to bed. Well, do what I do. Have a cup of vodka and then enjoy the rest of your night because you're going to need it to get that out of your head. Well, I said I was going somewhere for a reason. There was a hearing today. Now, this is, what is this? This is April 1st. Now, not on the East Coast. It's April 2nd. But this was April Fool's Day, except that this wasn't the April Fool. The only April Fool is here, And this is Nina Jankowicz testifying today. Take it away.
Because the premise of this hearing, the so-called censorship industrial complex, is a fiction that has not only had profound impacts on my life and safety, but on our national security. More alarmingly, this fiction is itself suppressing speech and stymieing critical research.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I cut off her head. How dare I do that? Let's go back and listen to what she says is going on. It's not the leftists that are censoring. It's you guys, you evil, evil people.
That protects our country. I want to acknowledge the irony we're having this discussion as we witness an assault on the First Amendment we have not seen in decades. The Trump administration has directed far more egregious violations of our Constitution than the imagined actions of the Biden administration on which this hearing is premised.
Okay, as per normal, everything, I mean everything that she said is a lie. It's all a lie. That's all the leftist Democrats and globalists know how to do. It's a lie. When they accuse you of something, how many thousands of times have I said this and will continue to say this in the future? It is they themselves who are doing the exact same thing. But a lie repeated occasionally becomes truth. And that's the whole point of that particular hearing. And that's a happy story because you need to understand these people, the theme of the show tonight, America betrayed from within. If that isn't the biggest betrayer bent, okay, there are there are bigger ones, but she's certainly one of the largest. And who has continued to betray us? Here's, do you guys ever watch the Sean Ryan show? I do occasionally when I have the time. Sean Ryan gets some pretty interesting guests. Now, whether you believe all of them or not, that's not for me to say. That's for you to decide. I will always, however, present alternatives here for you to consider. Always ask questions. Never take anything as truth. Always investigate on your own. I do it. I'm a techno-Luddite of the nth degree. I'm an ancient, fat, massively obese, old guy that can't manage to get himself out of bed in the morning, and I can find this stuff. And if I can find this stuff, I'll wager the American media maggots can find this stuff, but the big deal is they don't want to. Here's a minute and 45 seconds of an operative telling Sean Ryan about the Taliban and who's funding the Taliban and where that money has been sourcing. Go.
The simplest way I could say it right here, right now, American taxpayer money, your tax dollars, are funding the Taliban right now. And this has been going on since September 2021. On a weekly basis, the United States, the current administration, Mr. Joe Biden, has been sending $40 million, not from his own checking account. It's the U.S. payers, Americans' tax dollars. He's sending them $40 million cash every week that ends up in Afghanistan. And it's a very complex system. The money goes to the Afghanistan International Bank that lacks any authority to convert this dollar to Afghani, to auction it, right? And so this money, AIB gives it to the Taliban controlled.
Did you hear him say it? This money, AID, US AID, provides to the Taliban under Joe Biden. What else did we do when we were in Afghanistan? Let's see. We've been giving them money for terrorists to kill us and our men and women, our soldiers, and then we left billions of dollars of terribly efficient U.S. military equipment behind in Afghanistan after we got 13 U.S. soldiers killed from a fucked up withdrawal. That's a time for another show. I've done that before, and I'm not going to address that in depth again. This all came from you, and we left that behind. Oh, yeah. Do you guys remember one of the first things that happened after we left all this equipment behind? Guns, bombs, tracked vehicles, tired vehicles. Yeah, they are pretty tired. Vehicles with tires. Automatic weaponry, fully automatic weaponry. Rockets, helicopters, aircraft. Remember what one of the first things that occurred was after we left all that equipment behind? The Taliban figured out, oh, here's somebody who knows to fly a helicopter. So they took, I believe it was a Black Hawk up in the air, and then started to push their enemies out of the Black Hawk door at a couple of thousand feet. Because who wouldn't want to have that kind of fun, right?
Central Bank of Afghanistan. When I say central bank, think Federal Reserves. So the money goes there. Now, who is in charge of Afghanistan's central bank right now? Nur Ahmad Agha, sanctioned terrorist, sanctioned by the United States for financing IED attacks against our soldiers that killed American soldiers. He runs the central bank. He gets $40 million every week. Now, once the money reaches the central bank, they hold what is called a bidding and auctioning session, where they invite individuals that are involved with the Hawala system, licensed money dealers. They invite them, and they're bidding. Everyone bids on who wants to buy this dollar, and for
everyone bids as to who wants to buy this dollar. I have so much more, and I will be continuing it on Thursday. By the way, Unleashed Jeremy Hansen is in the show. Appreciate that. Thanks for being here. He says, I love that series, Landman. I agree. That's great. But you understand what was just said? We have been funding terrorists to kill our beloved American soldiers in foreign lands. And as Jeremy Hansen says, yes, I agree. That makes me sick to my stomach. How can we tolerate it? Oh, but wait, there's more. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here tonight on the SHR Media Network, on the SHR Media YouTube channel, on the SHR Media Rumble channel, and, of course, the grandiose KLRN. Oh, my God. Now, remember I said in the past that I needed to have something made up for this wonderful individual, to give kudos to Rick Robinson of The Rick Robinson Show, and I did. I made up a graphic just for Rick. So thanks for carrying me. The grandiose KLRN, and you can listen to this later in podcast in a host of other different wonderful places. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, and also by the Arrakis board who make my mixer. And, of course, Pratt & Whitney engines providing thrust you can trust. So, tiaras, experimental, are by My Little Pony. Thanks to you for being here tonight. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting in just a few minutes. God bless. Take care. Everybody, be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep. Good night, everybody. Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night and good luck.